Every Vande Bharat that leaves the yard today runs on power electronics that BHL did not design. Every WAP 5, every WAG 9, the beating heart, the propulsion came from ABB, from EMD, from Siemens. And yet, 30 years ago, BHEL was Indian Railways' only supplier. No competition, no choice, just BHEL. So, what happened? How does a company go from being the sole gatekeeper of an entire industry to a junior partner in its own country's flagship train? I am Shatadal Das, and this is Search Pulse. Today, we are breaking down the rise, the stagnation, and the possible comeback of India's most important and most misunderstood public sector giants. Rewind to the 1980s and 90s. If Indian Railways needed traction equipment, the motors, converters, and transformers that actually move a train, there was only one address: BHEL. From its Bhopal and Jhansi units, BHEL built under licenses from AEI, GEC, and later ABB. It had scale, it had sovereign backing, and it had a captive customer that legally couldn't buy from anyone else. But here's the catch: that dominance was never earned through competition, it was guaranteed by policy. And a business built on guarantees rarely builds the muscle to compete when the guarantees disappear. The world was fast changing. Railways globally were shifting from older traction systems to three phase AC traction, built around IGBT based converters, lighter, more efficient, and easier to maintain. Global players Siemens and Alstom moved quickly to master this shift. BHEL didn't, and the consequence showed up exactly where you would expect. When India rolled out its most important locomotives, the WAP 5, the WAG 9, the WDP 4, the WDG 4, the core propulsion technology came from ABB and EMD, not BHEL. BHEL became, in effect, a manufacturing shell, a vendor executing someone else's design, not the company that owned the technology. Post 2000, Indian Railways opened up procurement. Theoretically, this should have been BHEL's movement to prove it could compete on merit. Instead, three things worked against it. One, high cost structure. Decades of inefficient overheads made it hard to bid competitively. Two, no sales culture. When your only customer is guaranteed by policy, you never build a sales team that knows how to fight for orders. Three, new challengers emerged. Homegrown players like Medha built deep electronics expertise from scratch, while global OEMs quietly secured permanent footholds in the Indian market. The result, even in a flagship Make in India branded program like the Vande Bharat Sleeper, BHEL sits as a consortium partner, not the lead technology driver. And that's not ancient history, it's happening right now. In early 2026, BHEL began supplying semi high speed underslung traction converters and transformers for the Vande Bharat Sleeper project in partnership with Titagarh Rail Systems. The equipment rated for speeds up to 160 km per hour with a design speed of 180 km per hour is being built at BHEL's Bengaluru, Bhopal, and Jhansi units, then shipped to Kolkata for final assembly. It's a real progress, but notice the framing. BHEL is supplying components to someone else's consortium led project, a supporting role, not the architect of the system. Here's the part most analysis misses: the crisis isn't just technical, it's cultural. Weak performance incentives and almost no lateral hiring meant BHEL's best propulsion engineers had every reason to leave for the private sector, and many did. And then there's the leadership. A 2 year CMD tenure cycle means no reinvention strategy ever survives long enough to actually bear fruit. Imagine trying to turn around a battleship when the captain changes every 2 years. That's BHEL's leadership problem in a nutshell. So, can BHEL turn this around? The path exists, but it demands hard choices. The first is niche depth. Stop trying to do everything. Pick two or three segments, traction transformers or memo propulsion, and go deep. Second, next generation technology ownership. Stop licensing manufacturing rights. Acquire full technology access for silicon carbide converters and permanent magnet motors, the next frontier in traction efficiency. Third, life cycle services. BHL already has a massive installed base across Indian railways. Retrofits and digital predictive maintenance could unlock huge recurring revenue instead of chasing one time equipment orders. Fourth, export discipline. Competing for contracts in Africa and Southeast Asia would force BHEL to become genuinely cost competitive and customer responsive, muscles it never had to build at home. Fifth, governance fixes. Long-term leadership tenures, restructured R&D initiatives. Without these, none of the above survives contact with reality. And the opportunity has never been bigger. The Union Government Budget 2026-27 handed Indian Railways a record capital outlay, nearly 2.93 lakh crore, with seven new high-speed rail corridors and a fresh dedicated freight corridor on the table. This is the biggest railway investment pipeline in India's history. The question is whether BHEL earns a meaningful share of it or watches from the sidelines again. Here's the paradox at the heart of the story. BHEL had the talent, it had the scale, it had sovereign backing, it had every ingredient to become India's own ABB or India's own Siemens. Instead, it confused access to orders with competitiveness. The shift from entitlement to earned competitiveness, that's the real test. Not just for BHEL, but for every Indian PSU trying to survive a genuinely open market. So here's what I want to know from you. Can a PSU giant like BHEL truly pivot in a high tech sprint? Or is it window already closing? Drop your take in the comments. I read every single one. If this broke down something you didn't know about Indian Railways, hit that like button. It genuinely helps this channel grow. Share this with anyone who geeks out over India's infrastructure and manufacturing. And if you haven't already, subscribe to Search Pulse so you don't miss the next deep dive. This is Search Pulse. I'll see you in the next one.